So you've got a podcast, but you have no idea how to make it grow or monetize it. You've come to the right place. The Turnkey Podcast will give you the best tips on how to create a professional podcast. Whether you want to grow your audience, your influence, your bank account, or all of the above, this is the podcast for you. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Hey, Turnkey community, with strategies queued up and ready to go for increasing your podcast discoverability, strategies for making you more effective as a podcast host, being a better interviewer, and to help you turn your podcast into a money maker. Well, today is that day. Adam Adams and his team at Grow Your Show are pros that market to podcasters that also want to be pros in the space. I'm excited to talk to him. I talked to him yesterday on his show. Today he's over here on our show. Adam. How many times do anybody ever call you your last name first? They don't call you Adams. Does anybody ever say that?
I do it all the time. It's embarrassing. I'll start writing my last name, and luckily, right before I write the S, I'm like, "Oh, shoo! I can fix that easy." If my name was Doug Sandler, it wouldn't be easy. But Adam Adams is totally fine. And people always ask me my middle name, and I will jokingly say it's Adamson. They're like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm definitely kidding."
Well, my son's name is Adam. Now he is Adam Sandler. It's just a different Adam Sandler, and his social media handle is like not the famous one at gmail.com. I think is his email address. Now that I've said his email address, he'll get a ton of email. Not that our community actually does anything, and that's actually part of what I want to talk to you about, because I think this is such a unique thing. And I didn't grow up wanting to be a podcaster. I might have thought about wanting to be a broadcaster at some point in my life, but at what point in your journey did you discover that podcasting was going to be something that you would actually take a deeper dive into? It had to be something else that got you started into podcasting to begin with.
I started wanting to get my name brand out for real estate investing. So I do a little bit of real estate investing. I've done fix and flips and a bunch of rentals, some apartments, small apartments, big apartments. And I was thinking to myself, they say that your network is your net worth. And I was new to a city in Denver, and I kind of paused I got hit in a crash. I've been real estate investing for a while. I got hit in a crash and lost an apartment in 2011. It actually took me like 2 years of bad management to finally lose that apartment. But it started in 2009. Just tenants couldn't pay. And, the economy was still bad in 2011. Point being, when I got back into it and really wanted to get my name out, and I was new to a city, I just started brainstorming, Doug, like to answer your question. I just started brainstorming all of the ideas, anything that I could do to grow my network.
Yeah.
And the things that came to my mind at the time were podcasting was the top idea.
Yeah.
Because I thought that could do the best. And something held me back because I was not really a tech savvy. I've never had a podcast. I didn't know how to plug a microphone into a computer. I didn't know what recording software. It was all kind of going over my head. And the other idea, the secondary idea that I had, was a meetup group. And that seemed a little bit easier because I didn't have to figure out how to be some tech savy whiz.
Right. You just show up at a meeting place, the predetermined meeting place, bring coffee or whatever, donuts, and you're set with a meetup group.
So 2016, in the beginning of 2016, I decided to do both. But the meetup launched first. And in the beginning of 2017 is when the podcast launched. So the meetup launched first, and it did everything that I needed it to do. And I kept saying, I really want a podcast. I really want a podcast. And they say if you put things out into the universe, they will come to fruition.
Absolutely.
And there was a guy that ended up wanting to partner with me in real estate. And he had done a podcast in the past about mental health. And I just started trying to pick his brain, and we decided to partner up on the podcast. So 2017, it was really to get the network growing. And I finally did it with the help of somebody who had been there before and already had the equipment and knew how to use the equipment. So that's when it launched. And I will mention just briefly that like it didn't have any traction in the beginning. The meetup started getting traction pretty fast. And the podcast, I was like, what in the heck? Like I can have 8,000 people coming to my meetup every year and 3 people listening to my podcast every year. So it was like, what am I going to do? And I started just practicing some of the strategies that I use to grow the meetup, to kind of grow the podcast. And I finally figured it out right before selling the podcast in 2019, but that's kind of give you a little bit background.
Wow. Okay. And that's good. There was a lot of things in there I maybe wanted to talk about. And one of the things that's kind of out there on the shelf right now is you discovered something that was the difference between having relatively few listeners and growing maybe like a hockey stick. Do you think that would have happened if you didn't put in whatever this magic formula was? Or, I look at my podcast, my Nice Guys podcast, and we were hovering around 200 or 300 listeners for years. And then all of a sudden, a hockey stick happened. Something happened. We got on Overcast or something. We got to the #1 business show on with our Nice Guys podcast on Overcast, and we shot up to thousands of listeners per episode. But I didn't do anything special. What did you do special?
In my mind, and something that I share in my mind, I think there's 3 things that are important.
Yeah.
Now, this is if you've got a business at all. So your listener probably has a business. They're probably wanting to do the podcast or have the podcast. But in my mind, there's 3 really important things. I call them the pillars of influence. And I think of it as a 3-legged stool. As such, like you try to sit on a 3-legged stool and one of the legs isn't there, you're going to probably fall over. And I think of it like that as well for influence. And the 3 things are your thought leadership platform, which is like your podcast, or even your meetup could be your thought leadership platform, or a book or something. Yep. So I think that the thought leadership platform is really important. I know you agree because you've got all the podcasts and then you have a #1 selling best book, right? And additionally, the next pillar would be the social media. And a lot of people, they avoid this, but Gary Vaynerchuk, I've been following him for a long time, even when he just did wine. Yeah. But he says that he was saying in 2016, if you aren't active on social media by the year 2023, and bingo, we're almost done with 2023. If he was saying years ago, if you're not active by the year 2023, then you're going to lose. You're going to absolutely lose in business. And he went on to talk about like that's how people vet you. That's how people get to know you. Right. They just check out your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, and see what you're up to, see what you're about, see what your demeanor's like, your facial expressions, your voice inflections, and what you care about. If you're partying or if you're focused on this or that. And the third pillar is going to be meeting people in person. And that's a hard one for some people that think that they're doing virtual, but Doug and I are meeting in person right now. We met in person yesterday. That's over Zoom. We're not in the same city. Right. But we're face to face. I can feel your energy. I can see your voice, your facial expressions, hear your voice inflections. And we can have a back-to-back conversation where you're asked something, I respond, and it's not canned, like written down. It's coming up much more naturally. And so people can get that in person by doing Zoom, by doing a meetup group, hosting a conference, going to other people's conferences, I'm sure, maybe even sponsoring a conference. You can also get it from having a storefront, like McDonald's, or like just having a place where people come into you. But if you do all 3, you're going to be basically make sure that you are you're hitting a criteria to sit on all 3 of your legs. And I took that to heart back then. So to answer your question, I took that to heart. And the things that I think made the podcast grow was the things that made the meetup grow. And it was by having all 3 of these. And here's the thing. You want people to talk about you when you're not in the room. You get that with your thought leadership. Your book helps people talk about you when you're not around. Your any content that you have. If people came to your meeting or your conference, they can talk to you about you when you're not there. Next, they got to see you on social. And the next, they got to see you in person. So for me, I was actually deciding to build all 3 of them because of the others. So when I was on my social media, I would do tricky things, and your listener can write this down because it's very helpful to them. I would do tricky things on social media where I would really make people feel sad or bad that they didn't come to the meeting. So I would take pictures at the meeting, at the
FOMO.
at the meetup. Yeah, it's all FOMO, exactly. So I'd take pictures at the meeting, and I would talk about, like, this is how much money was there, this is how many deals got done there, this is what we talked about, and the next one's going to come up. Make sure you don't miss out.
Right.
And I would also talk about my podcast. I would specifically, and this is another thing to write down for the listener, when they want somebody to listen to their podcast, if all they do is just like, listen to my podcast, they're going to lose. Yeah. But if they basically have something of value where it's really not about them, but it's not about themselves, it's about the person who needs the information. So I would just say, hey, I interviewed this guy about markets. All of you guys want to know the best market to be involved in. And we went through some timeless stuff that it shows you how to research markets, how to make sure you're in a good market, make sure there's a tailwind and not a headwind, so that you're going a little bit faster with your efforts. And it's all in episode 242. So I think y'all should check that out and just let me know what you think about it next week. So I would have a specific reason, and it would solve a specific problem. And I kept doing that. I kept knowing what the problem was. And then I would record an episode. So let's just say 242 we talked about. Number 243, I would have a different thing, and I would record that. And then for the next week, then I would just say, all of you need to know how to raise money. You are stuck. And so I use salesmanship. You are stuck right now with however much money you have. I don't care if it's $1 million or $2 million or $3 million sitting in the bank. You can't go any higher than that if you're not raising money. And that holds you back from this and that and that. And that makes you not be able to do these things. You're going to need to know how to raise equity the right way, make sure that it's legal. And I recorded an episode with an attorney. We talked about raising money ethically, morally, and legally, and making sure you get the most amount. So you should listen to 242. That way your real estate journey can be better. 243, I mean, your real estate journey can be better. So I would promote both. On the podcast, I would promote the meetup, and I would promote my social. At the meetup, I would promote my podcast and my social. On the social, I'd promote my meetup and my podcast. And that's really the way that it grew, where it became something that only a few people were listening to becoming ranked 0.5%. Now, I don't know that we were ever number one in a category. I don't remember seeing that or even looking for that, but we got ranked 0.5%. We had 3,500 listeners every single episode. And it became something of value, because 3,500 listeners is not small.
No, totally not. Any more than 200, and you're in the top few percentage points of podcasters that are out there. And if you have more than 10 or 12 episodes, you're also in those top few percentage points too. Yeah. And you have thousands of listeners or had on that other show that you had, and you have hundreds of episodes of your current show in place also, which again, proof is in the pudding. The consistency of the messaging. I talk about it all the time with my clients. Get to know your market, your offer, and your message. Getting to know your mom a little bit. Talked about yesterday, right? It's like the essential components of using in Adam's case the top the 3 pillars. You've got to share those consistently. Doing it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and saying this shit doesn't work because I don't see the results. Podcasting is a long game. And to think that you're going to get in it and jump in, I know I'm talking to you, not talking at you, Adam. I'm talking to my audience that's listening to this, because they're the ones that want the knowledge and the wisdom. Man, you got a guy on the other side of this microphone with Adam Adams that has done this already. Why are we all waiting to I'll do it when I have a community? Well, you'll fucking never get a community unless you start to do some of the things with 2 people. That's the frustrating part, is that when you have a client that's sitting across the table from you and you're like, man, I've been down this path before. I know exactly what you're feeling. I'm sorry you're feeling, but can we shortcut this so that you don't feel this much longer? Just listen to what Adam has done. Why do I bring a guy like Adam on this show who does exactly what I do? Because he does it in a different way than I do it. How many times do you tell your kid the same thing, but a friend of his will tell him the same thing and they'll fucking listen to the friend because it wasn't you that told him.
I do that all the time. I'm dating someone and she keeps telling me, you should do this. You should do this. You should do this. I'm like, maybe, it sounds, and then my business coach says, do this. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing that. And then my sweetheart's like, what the hell? I said that so many times. Is it because I'm a girl? I'm like, no, it's because you're close to me.
You're too close. It's too close. Yeah. All right. So take me from, and I appreciate you sharing the three legs of the stool. And I think it's great. It's a different spin on a specific topic that I have been chatting about, but I haven't really been as clear as you were. And okay, well, you're talking about community influence and money, Doug, and that's why people get into podcasting, but you're not giving me any of the practical stuff. Well, he just gave it to you. And to review just really quickly, again, the three legs of the stool. One of them is, keep going. Go for me.
Okay. The first is thought leadership platform.
Thought leadership platform. That is your podcast, your book, anything like that. Second is?
And the second is your social media.
Okay.
And the third is meeting people in person.
Okay. So those three things, you need to do it consistently, even when nobody shows up. You need to continue doing it and maybe tweak things so that people will show up. And you need to use those other two things. When the one thing that you're doing, you need to use that one thing to promote the other two things that you're not doing. So in your podcast, you're promoting social media, and your meetups, if meetups is the way that you're going to do your stuff, but you got to make sure that all three of those are in the mix. That is great. Anything to add to that before we keep rolling?
Yeah, maybe just to pinpoint one part is anything that you do. I think good salespersonship or persuasion can be of huge value to a business owner. And there are a bunch of books out about it that I've read, and you learn a little bit by messing up and trying and getting a no told to you and trying it a different way and getting a yes told to you. You kind of learn some of that as well. But it is going to be important for anyone to remember that they shouldn't be a sleazy salesperson. I know that you resonate with that.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be a sleazy salesperson. However, there are some things that just happen with human psychology that we have to buy into, and we have to understand that that's how we get our person to make the next step.
Yes.
So your person, your listener is a podcaster, or they will be a podcaster. Mm-hmm. And what they need to do is they need to call people to action. It's scary to call people to action. They need to use some of these persuasive ways of speaking to get people to take the action. Because here's the thing. If I didn't use FOMO, then nobody would come. But it's not just self-serving. Sure, I want a lot of people to come. Yes, that is true also. But I also want to make sure that they get the traction in their own business. And so other meetup organizers, now we're talking about we're talking about all things, social media, we're talking about podcasting, mm-hmm. We're talking about your business today. But in this one example, other meetup people, they would say, hey, we meet once a month, the first Wednesday of every month. And it's like, when it comes down to it, you're busy, mm-hmm. Your kid's sick, there's no fire under your ass to make you need to go to that meeting. All they do is just meet every month, so you're not missing anything in particular.
Right.
But when I would talk about it, I would talk as what's in it for me, WIIFM, everyone's favorite radio station. I would use that and talk about what's in it for them. And so I would say basically, hey, if you're looking to get this result without this bad thing, write that down, everybody. If you want this result without this bad thing, with this hardship, without this thing that holds you back, you need to be here on this date. And then I would also say, so get your babysitters ready, scheduled, and make sure you're there on that day, because it's a unique thing and you don't want to miss out. So that fear of missing out, it hits us really hard. Humans are like lemmings, or sheep. But lemmings are cool because they will come up to a cliff. You can watch this on YouTube. Just look up lemmings, and they'll come up to a cliff, and all the lemmings are together like a herd, and then they all just stop until finally one lemming jumps, then they all jump down the cliff. And that's the thing with humans is we need to remember that we follow other people. We trust what other people have done. So if it's on like Amazon reviews, for example, if we talk about our client, like you do this really well, Doug. You mention, hey, I worked with this client and they did this thing. What it does subconsciously to your listener as well is that they're like, oh, okay, this person worked with Doug and got a good result. Maybe I should work with Doug and get a good result.
It's funny. I do it. And I appreciate you saying that, oh, you do that and you do it well. I don't even realize that I'm doing it. I've done it so long because doesn't everyone want to be a part of something that somebody else is? You don't want to be the person that's the first. You want to be the person that's like, oh, he's done this before and there's been some success with it. So why? And people need to be told what to do. They need to be told what to do. And the reason why people hire coaches is because they need that level of accountability that they can't get from doing something on their own. And oftentimes, what you need to do, you just don't do it. Launching a podcast is not a big deal, but why does somebody charge $1,000 or $5,000 or $20,000 to coach you through it? Because you won't do it unless you get somebody standing 100%. Right next to you saying, you can do it. Let's do it. Oh, that initial episode, that welcome episode, that sucked. It's like, no, it didn't. Look, I did a welcome episode too. Mine was 1,400 episodes ago. I promise you nobody's listening to that episode anymore. Yes, it sucked, but keep rolling through this process. You've done it. You've accomplished it. Don't let perfect be the enemy of done in your particular case.
Do we have time for one more example?
Yeah, man.
Like salespersonship. Yeah. Once upon a time, in April of 18, Meetup headquarters flew me out to speak in front of their top 150 organizers. So they flew people out from a bunch of different countries, and it was really cool. And I was like one of 6 speakers, and I went to the 6th floor of Meetup HQ where all of their engineers are, and I just asked them, like, why me? And one of the things that they said is because I had more ratings and reviews on my Meetup than anyone else. And so I'll share it. How did I do this? Because this is how your listener can get people to listen to our podcast. This is how your listener can get people to come to their website. And you mentioned it a moment ago. You basically said people have to see themselves being able to do it. People have to see other people doing it. They have to understand. And that's exactly what I did to get, I guess, more meetups than anyone, and more ratings, reviews than anyone in the world. Because apparently I was number 1 in that at the whole world out of 255,000 meetups.
Wow.
And it's crazy. And I remember how I did it. And so I want to share that. Other people would say something like, other people probably wouldn't even know about the ratings, the reviews at Meetup. Right. Other people probably wouldn't even know. In my case, I saw that they were there. And this is how I said it. Instead of like making it about me and saying, hey, can you please rate and review me? Can you please let me know can you please make Meetup? Can you please let other people hear about me? It was just like, hey, I hope you had a really good meeting. You're going to get an email. And so I'm using that language of you're going to do this. It's assuming the sale. You're going to see an email. It's going to come in. And when you click on it, not if you click on it. If you click on it, when you click on it. When you click on it, it's going to go to this one place. And all I want you to do is just be honest about your experience of this event today. So when you get it, just be honest about what your experience, what you thought of the speaker, what you thought of the content, what you thought of the networking, the pros, the cons. You know why I want you to do that is because I want to be able to serve you better. There's a lot of people here. I'm not going to be able to ask all of you your thoughts, but if you tell me in there that something went wrong or something went right, I'll make sure I keep doing the right things and I stop doing the wrong things. And so I would just leave it like that. Say one more time. So when you see it, just give an honest rating review. Now we had a lot of people that came and we also had a lot of meetings. So we were like number 1 in the world by a lot. And it was crazy. All because of that. And that's one of the reasons why they asked me to be a speaker. So the takeaway is if you're asking somebody to go to your website, hey, you can go to mywebsite.com and book a call with me. I don't do it like that. I say, you need this thing, and this is the way to get it. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. All you need to do is you're going to go to growyourshow.com or whatever the website is, mywebsite.com. And you're going to see that green button at the top right. Click that and you can schedule a time with me that's perfect for you and perfect for me. It'll go right into our calendars. And so that now we're having them imagine themselves doing it. And because they've imagined now, it's not like they want to hire me any more or less.
Right.
They wanted to, or they didn't. In one case, they weren't going to take the action because they didn't understand what it looked like, where the button was. But when we explain it enough, say, you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, you're going to see this, click that, and it makes it really easy. And now they've seen, oh, that sounds easy. Just go to this website and just click that button and I'm done. And it allowed people in my meetup to get the most amount. It allowed people, also for different conferences that we would host to get a lot of people subscribing and coming to the conference. So I hope that takeaway is.
Yeah, man, that was a great way to actually share an example of it live. I want to talk about, if we could just for a moment, the transition from the real estate stuff to the podcast world, because at some point you had to realize, oh, this doesn't just work for real estate. This can actually work for any business. So can you share a little bit about that part of your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had a business and invested in real estate. And for a couple of years, I made my entrepreneurship the real estate. So we were doing something called syndicating a huge apartment buildings. So we're syndicating just means we raised a bunch of money from other people, and then we would close on multi-million-dollar properties, and none of it would have to be our money.
Right.
So that became the business. In the end of 2019, I felt like there was going to be a crash coming within the next 4 or 5 years. So I thought, by 2023 or 2024, I think we're going to have a world global economy crash. And I don't know what's going to happen with real estate, if it's going to go up, if it's going to go down, stock markets. I think people are going to panic. I didn't know. So I said, within 4 or 5 years, something's going to happen. When we close on a syndication, we plan the hold time. We usually plan for 3 to 6 years and sometimes 7 to 10. But usually 5 or 6 is pretty normal, pretty common to get what you want out of it. And I never want to take money from other people and lose it. And so for me, I decided to slow down on acquisitions of syndication because I didn't really know what was going to happen. I thought something bad might.
Right.
But because I don't know if it's going to go up or down or stay the same for a while, I just don't want to be holding other people's money for that. And I already had a podcast and I had helped several people with their podcasts and they got ranked in the top 1%. And people were getting a lot more listeners and downloads than they ever had just because of some small tweaks with this is what you can do with your social media. This is what you can do with your artwork. This is how you can speak on your podcast to get those people to listen to the next episode or whatever it is. And so in 2019, I'm in a mastermind group and I recommend your listener find a mastermind or at least a business coach for sure. So a coach that can support them and help them grow. In my case, I was in this mastermind and in 2019, I said, I think there might be a crash in the next few years. I want to slow that down. And what do you guys think I could do? And everybody unanimously was like, you have to do podcasts. You have to have a business around podcasting. And I do have a passion for it. And I always have. And in fact, in that group of 15, I had helped a few of them and their friends with their podcasts for free. I poured into them, changed some things, and they got more traction. Right. And so that was really the catalyst in 2019, July of 19. I started actually doing editing and post-production for podcasts. And in 2020, when real estate started to crash, which I was really lucky about the timing. My real estate, the syndications that we had, I went from being retired and all of this kind of stuff, having more money than I needed every month to not taking distributions. And what that means is the company isn't giving money to the owners anymore because we are scared and because there's less coming in. So I was really lucky that just a few months before I had started that. So I ramped it up. We had a few clients. It was making a little bit of money. And then in 2020, I said, I'm going to go all in on this. I'm going to serve people. And what ended up happening is a lot more people wanted to start podcasts when they had that time.
Right. We found the same.
It was just perfect for me. So,
yep. And tell me what are most people doing wrong when it comes to either launching or growing? I always talk about people get into podcasting for 3 reasons: to grow their community, build influence, or to make money. I always find that I'm trying to guide people towards one of those 3 things, the other 2 being byproducts of the one that they select, but they always have to lead with a specific strategy. What do you find people are doing wrong in either the launch phase or in the growth phase of their podcast?
I have a really good example for each. For the launch, here's the biggest problem that I see, and it happens with like more than 90% of podcasters. That's why about 90 don't make it past, well, I think it's like 10 episodes or some number. It doesn't matter what it is, but they go because they've been told by other people, massive action, because they've been told by other people, don't overthink it, just start, start. And because they've been told by other people, ready, fire, aim. You can always course correct later.
Right.
You want to like get this out as soon as possible. A lot of people, they don't begin with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey would say.
Right.
Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. It's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And so these people are listening to other people talk about non-effective things, ready, fire, aim, instead of ready, aim, fire. And they go and launch a shitty podcast or with no direction, or they don't know who their avatar is, how they serve them, or what they should talk about, or who they should even interview. And then what ends up happening is they make it just a few episodes, and it's not doing exactly what they want, and they just completely quit. They burn out. They say this doesn't work, kind of like you mentioned. So the ready, fire, aim is the biggest mistake for launching a podcast. Ready, aim, fire is much, much better. For growing a podcast, I think of it as you're maybe in, let's say, Los Angeles, and you want to go to New York City. You want to go to Manhattan, where the meetup headquarters are, where I spoke. You want to go from New York, you want to go from LA to Manhattan. And you're thinking to yourself, what do I need to do? If I go back to that ready, aim, fire, instead of ready, fire, aim, I'm going to decide where I go. I'm going to decide I'm going to go on the 10. I'm going to go up the 20. I'm going to go across the 40. I'm going to go up the 70 or whatever. And, or you don't go up on the 70, but doesn't matter. You go sideways on the 70.
Right, the over on the 70.
At any rate, you can map it out. You can even bring food. You can say every freaking place that you want to stop. I want to stay at this hotel. I want to go to this resort. I'm going to go at this place and this place. But if you don't have fuel in your tank, you go nowhere. You can have a plan, but you go nowhere without the fuel. And so what people generally think that when they want to grow a podcast, they think, I'm not going to do any marketing because I don't have any money, because my podcast isn't making money. And they say it makes no effing sense.
Right.
To invest in my podcast before it makes me any money.
Right. It's the other. It needs to be the other way.
It's like you're thinking, I'm going to go from California from LA to Manhattan, which is a very far drive. And you're like, well, okay, I don't want to be like at risk, so I'm not going to really pay for gas through it. When I get to Manhattan, then I'll pay for the gas. And what ends up happening is you never get to Manhattan because you never have the fuel that it takes to get there. And so the biggest problem is people don't dare to invest in their podcast. Sometimes they don't dare to invest in their business. Sometimes they don't dare to invest in themselves and have a business coach, a mastermind group. The problem is, if you're not going to invest in it, it can never pay you dividends.
Right.
If you want the dividends, you have to put the money first. It's kind of like you have to take a leap of faith, like that first lemming that jumps off the cliff. You really just got to take a leap of faith. It can give you some anxiety, but once you put that fuel in, you're going to start moving and cooking and getting to where you want. And then you get to the next gas station, you still need to put some more in. You still need to put some more in until you actually get to your location. So just putting money, ads, time, attention, calling people. There's so many ways of getting fuel, but most people are afraid to do that. And so they automatically don't move anywhere.
I love it. That's a really clear, precise explanation. You need to, I think I might have said this yesterday when we were chatting on your show. If you treat it like a hobby, you're going to get hobby results. Treat it like a business, and you're going to get business results. People don't, it's like they play the hokey pokey with their podcast. It's like, today I'm in, today I'm out. They don't consistently share their message. They don't go after it like it's a business. I tend to treat my podcast like it's the hub of my business. Everything that I do with my business runs through my podcast. If I have a prospect, why not put them in the guest seat? Just builds the relationship. If I have a potential, a potential vendor that I want to use, let's kick the tires on his product or service. Let's see if maybe he'll even give me the product or service, because I'm going to do a review on my podcast. And I'll tell you, for those of you in our turnkey community, don't feel like because you have 3 listeners or 10 listeners or even 20 listeners, if you're doing okay in the very beginning, that people won't queue up to want to give you the products and services that we have. Before we even started our Something to Whine About podcast, we were getting free trips or paid wine. With my Mustang podcast, everything is a write-off. I ended up getting a sponsor recently for the show that's paying me money. I now get paid to drive my classic Mustang. I mean, it's the coolest thing in the world. So I love what you say about, really handling this. Treat it seriously and you will get results. Why do you think that people feel that this is a time that it's okay to play it safe? Why is podcasting the game of I'm going to play it safe to a lot of people? Adam, what do you think?
I think that there are ways of having a podcast for a low cost that you could have a pod. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a successful podcast.
Right.
It could just be a journal or a letter to your mother.
Right.
But you can have a podcast technically for very inexpensive. You could do it from your phone if you really, really wanted to. I don't recommend it. I like the mic that you're using.
Agreed.
But you could buy like a $20 mic. You probably might not even need a webcam at all. But if you do, they can be $100 or less. And then you just got to have like internet and you record it and you can get your message out. If I'm not recommending this specifically,
right.
But I think when you're talking about why do people sometimes mistakenly think of podcasting as something that they don't really have to do or try, I think there's really 2 reasons. One of them is because what I did when I first started is I went to launch that podcast that really didn't have hardly any listeners, probably less than 20.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is what's going to happen. Adam Adams is going to launch a podcast, and the podcast playing platforms are going to be so thrilled and excited. They're going to be, oh my God, Adam just started a podcast. Let's put this in front of millions and millions of people. And he's automatically going to be famous overnight. So that's one problem, is you expect that, what is that? Field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. They don't just automatically come just because you have a podcast. You don't have millions of listeners or followers just simply because you have a show. You're not famous yet. Nobody knows you. You had to do the fuel. You had to do the fuel to grow. And the second reason, it goes back to what I started to say a moment ago, is when you're doing a podcast, you think that it can be cheap. You think that it can be easy. And I think it really goes to what you said, dabblers get crushed.
Yeah.
You have to treat it like a business, not a hobby. So people are like, ooh, let me just try it. Let me just dabble in it. Let me just see what happens. Let me do the cheapest version. And if it works, I'll grow it. If you started out right, it's going to be fine. But if you started out just like testing the waters, not being invested, not putting both feet in, I think you're going to fail 98% of the time.
Agreed. I want to be real. Not that we haven't been real. I want to be real and share a real subject with those that are in our community for a second. So if you're listening to this and you didn't hear anything else that we said, stop whatever you're doing, because this part I think is really important, because this is the part that knocks most people out of podcasting faster than they got started in podcasting. So here's the question. And again, Turnkey community, this is the part, not that we haven't been listening straight along. this is the part I want you to listen to really carefully. We have not prepared for this question, but I'm going to ask it because I know that Adam has got his spin on it. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I just think that there's the reality of what happens. So here comes. When people get started podcasting with you, where do they, number one, think the money is going to come from? Not to pay for their podcast, but the income that they're going to make. And then second, where is the reality of where the money comes from in podcasting for your clients?
I'll have to say that I intentionally correct that before they start. But so when somebody's like scheduling a discovery call with us,
yeah,
a lot of the times they are focused mostly on wanting to have sponsors and advertisers on their podcast. This is where they imagine or would have assumed that the money would come from.
It's called Joe Rogan syndrome.
So here's a thing to consider when looking at that. In my opinion, it's a fallacy. It's most likely not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to probably take time, or you really have to understand how to make it happen. When you're launching a podcast and you want to make money that way, you got to understand that there's something called CPM, that people that are savvy at being sponsors for other podcasts, they understand this thing called CPM. And what they want is the lowest CPM possible. Cost per meal, cost per thousand, really, because the meal, I think, is like Latin, just like it would be in Spanish, for example. So the cost per meal, cost per thousand people, they're going to try to drive that down to like $5 per thousand. And you're going to try to drive it up to like $30 per thousand. And you're probably going to be somewhere in between. Let's just say you negotiate it to 20 per meal.
Okay, that's good. That would be a good industry standard to try to attain. Okay, so what's that mean?
The top 10% of all podcasts have 300 downloads per episode.
Okay, translate that into dollars per episode in advertising if they have one advertiser.
So $20, we're talking about $6 per episode. So if you're wanting to go do CPM, if you're wanting to make money the way that you are imagining, and if you're in the top 10%, you're going to make $6 an episode.
Okay.
So the way that I will coach and consult on even before someone hires me, I'll start talking about how we're making $40,000 per month because of the podcast.
Right.
And I'll share with them why I don't have any sponsors or advertisers, is because I want everything to be focused on my customer, my listener, and their progression to the next thing for them.
Right. And
we can support that. And so we will end up bringing on just a few new clients each month. And I have a residual, annual contract for our services, launching and growing. And what ends up happening is the company is netting on average, and has been for the last couple of years, around $40,000 per month, specifically from the podcast. Podcast.
Okay, so listen, Turnkey community. This is not because Adam has a podcast about podcasting, because it's not specified. The services that you provide don't have to be about podcasting. He's not asking people to become podcast coaches. I used the example yesterday on your show, I think, of the accounting podcast, or maybe I used it. I can't remember. I had a couple conversations yesterday. Accounting podcast, having people on the show that potentially could be clients, referral sources, or people in the listening audience that could potentially be clients or referral sources for the show. And that is how he's talking about monetizing his podcast. Not one time did he ever say, you're going to get rich from advertising and sponsors, because the challenge is, unless you're Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, and you come to the podcasting platform with already 3, 4, 10 million people that are following you, you're like me, and I guess Adam, the same thing. Adam probably had more followers than I did before he jumped into podcasting. We had 7 people listen to our first podcast. but very similar.
I had 6, so okay, I'm really impressed right now. I'm really impressed.
Wait a minute. I pulled out my headphones. I got so excited about this conversation. I actually did better than somebody in my first episode. So what he's talking about is not falling prey to the Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins syndrome of I'm going to make my money and retire from advertising dollars. And the other thing is the challenge with finding sponsors, you've just created another job for yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's the worst thing ever. If you're creating another job of now I have to sell sponsorship, something that's even further removed from the products and services I actually want to provide, that's a horrible job. I never want to talk about that. And I never want to be an industry standard. I don't want to have to worry about $20 per 1,000 listeners or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I appreciate you sharing that. So we talked about the things that people shouldn't, or the reasons why people think that they're getting into podcasting, where the money comes from. Now, can you share a little bit, just give me a couple of details of where you advise or you coach your clients to where the money actually comes from?
Yeah, selling your own product or service. So we work best with coaches and mentors, attorneys, somebody who has a business where one client is worth 10,000 at the lowest and maybe like 150,000 or more, but anywhere in that 10 minimum to like 150,000, you're going to crush it. You're literally going to, you're going to make so much money.
Okay.
Even if it's at the 10,000, you need one person a month to make 120 grand a year.
All right. So how does someone converting to a $10,000 to $150,000 sale, how does that actually work? Okay. Cause advise our listening audience. They're now a client of yours. They're sitting on your client list. You're having a coaching call with them. What advice, okay, I got it, Adam. I can make $10,000 a month. How am I doing that? Do I sell that person advertising? What do I do? Where do I make that money from?
Okay. So you will sell, if you will. You'll just serve. The best way to really say it, I don't even want to use the word sale, but you will serve your listener. Your listener comes to your podcast to learn something because they want to grow, they want to get to that next level for them. That's really what they're looking for. And if you've got the podcast, which starts it off, whets their appetite, gets them going, everybody knows that you can't just get somewhere only by knowledge. You have to do it by action. A lot of people need accountability. A lot of people need somebody who's been there before. And so the way to make 10 grand a month or 40 grand a month or $1 million a month, I've got a couple clients that are making $1 million a month through their podcast. Crazy, right?
Crazy. But they have a really good ticket item. It's like you're not selling $2 books and making $1 million a month. You're probably selling $150,000 commission or product or service. Okay.
Exactly.
So keep going. Go.
Exactly. So you're going to serve your listener to go from the step of their learning to the step of supporting them. And that makes you a coach or a consultant or a service-based business or maybe you're an attorney, for example, and where they'll hire you to do whatever that thing is. You take care of them, you coach them one time, or you coach them for a year, or you coach them for 6 months. And that's really the high level is you're selling them your service, or you're supporting them further to really give them the value, the ultimate value, so that they can really do the thing. But in practice, how it looks for example, on my podcast is I'm never afraid on my own show. I'm never afraid. On your show, I might be afraid. I don't want to step on toes. That's not, I'm not going to be like, hire me,
No,
but
I would say that for you though. I would say that. I think you should hire Adam. Look, if something I have said, and you've been listening to the show for 2 or 3 years or however long we've been producing the show and the Nice Guys, if you haven't stepped forward to come out of anonymity to jump onto my list through any call to action that I have created, and Adam is coming, he's making sense, go with Adam. I would tell you that. We may use this example yesterday. Let's say we have 5,000 people collectively on our lists. Only 1% of those people are going to buy me. That means 99%. I think we said 0.3% are actually going to buy. So it means 99.7% are not going to buy from me. If you're not going to buy from me, talk to Adam. I don't want an affiliate commission. Just do the right thing and start your podcast, or get into the podcasting game, or start learning a little bit more clearly about how this can be successful for you. If you're wringing your hands figuring, why the hell can't I make this podcast work? And you've been listening to me for any period of time, stop listening to me. Listen to Adam. He's the guy.
Let me share like a little bit of why you don't want to step on someone's toes if you're on their podcast anyway. You just don't want to do that.
Right.
But B, the most important thing, the thing that's the biggest deal is, I don't know your listener yet. Your listener doesn't know me yet. They're just getting to know. So a big call to action on somebody else's podcast isn't the most important thing. You know, I don't need to sell them. I just need to be myself, and maybe they'll listen to my podcast and eventually do that. But on my own show, they have a fairly strong relationship with me because they may have listened to dozens or even tens and tens of episodes. And so I'm not shy at all. So to your listener who's going to make money this way on their podcast,
right?
Call to action. Say stuff like, hey, are you struggling with XYZ? I can serve you. I can support you. Let's just get on a quick discovery call. Go to blah and click the green button in the upper right corner, and that way they're going to schedule that. And when you get on that call, Doug, you said something yesterday that I do on discovery calls. I listen with 2 ears. Mm-hmm. You mentioned this on my podcast, and I really think your listeners should check that out because it was a good episode. But you mentioned listening with 2 ears when you're interviewing somebody. Well, I do this on the discovery calls. I listen to just help them, but I also try to remember and retain information on any parts that they're struggling with that we definitely can support.
Correct.
And then when we do, I say, I do think it's a fit. Today, I had a call just before this, and the person wants to start 2 podcasts. And I said, absolutely don't start this one. Don't pay anyone to help you. But if you start this other one, pay me and no one else.
Right.
Because we can really support you, serve you, take everything off of your hands. So it's just really turnkey, if you will. I'm not trying to use your word, but turnkey. And so anyway, like I will frequently have a call with somebody. I'll say, don't start a podcast on that. Don't try this. Other times when I think that we can be the best person to serve them, I'm like, we need to do this. And so you ask the questions, you get to know them on a discovery call. And then you don't be afraid, because it's not about you and the 10 grand or the 150 grand or whatever. It's not about you and making money and how much. Here's another problem. How we think like, I really need the money. Like this is taking forever. I don't have a client yet, or it's a slow month, and we get needy. Just think about the other person. Just know that everything's going to work out. Karma somehow works out.
Always works out.
Care about them and care about what they're going for. So on that call, don't stress about it. Just if you're the best person to help them, let them know. And don't be afraid or timid about that, because that's actually serving them. They would be in such a bad, think about how much you like your own services, how much you believe in it. If they go to somebody else that's like your competitor or something that doesn't really offer all of the things that you do, it's bad for that potential client to go with this other person if they're not going to serve them at the level that you could. And so you got to be passionate about what you can do. So 100%. On that discovery call, you'll sell them, and then you'll start working with them. And that really is how it looks. So there's something I use called seeding. And I do that throughout an episode. I will mention things. I'll mention calls with me. I'll mention lead magnets. I'll mention clients that had worked with me. I'll mention examples. And this is like planting seeds along the way, so that with the call to action, people it's already being groomed. It's already been watered. It's already been pruned. It's time for them to take that next step.
Since we haven't had a call to action on this show other than just, hey, look, just make sure you listen to some of the episodes. And if you think there's a fit for anything that Adam does, I want you to get on the phone and call him. But we haven't given anybody a way to do that. So Adam, here's an opportunity. I'm asking you to sell for just a second. I know you wouldn't, I didn't ask you at the beginning of this, hey, what would be a win for you if you got on the show? And then we ended up having our audience do something. What is that do something? But now I want to ask you to reveal that. What would be a win for you? Because I want to create a win for you with my audience. Turnkey community, you've been listening to me for a while, haven't taken action. If you haven't taken action, if you have, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the business. But if you haven't taken action yet, maybe it's me and I'm okay with that. Let's see if is Adam the right fit? If he is, this is how you reach him, or this is what he wants you to do. So Adam, fill in the blank for me if you would.
Yeah, I'll say to the listener, if you're in that position right now where you just want free content, you just want to keep getting to know me, the podcast on podcasting is a great resource. It's free and you can get more content. And if you're ready, if you want to do a discovery call, then it's growyourshow.com and it's a green button at the top right. And you're going to push it. Just go there. You're going to see it right there. Just click.
He's doing it to you. He's doing it to you.
There we go.
I appreciate that. And Adam, thank you. I loved having these couple of conversations with you. I know we got other stuff that we can talk about off record, and we can, there are projects, there are opportunities, there are things that we can do together. Don't know what they are yet, but this is how podcasting works for me. You know, I always emphasize with my clients, look, don't just look to your anonymous audience to jump out of anonymity into a call to action and your lead magnet and go down your funnel. There's an opportunity from the guest seat to build relationships, get referrals, create affiliate relationships, joint venture partnerships, direct clients that way. And there's this other category. It's like, fuck, I don't know where you fit into my world, but I know what you fit into my world far enough for me to know I want to have another conversation with you. And that's, I think, where we potentially are, unless I've just completely misread the last 2 days. You know, I've gone out to a bar with people before and I'm like, hey, that chick really liked me a lot. It's been a long time since I've done that. But no, she didn't like you. She actually hated you, Doug. I'm like, okay, so we'll figure it out. Adam, thanks for sharing and thanks for being here. Any final words of wisdom to our either experienced podcasters or new podcasters that are out there as a final thought?
I don't think so. I want to, because it seems like naturally you would, but I think it was a good episode.
I think it was a good episode too. We fucking rock, man.
Yeah.
Turnkey community, thanks for tuning in another week. Check the show notes for all the links for the information we talked about today. See you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the Turnkey Podcast. If you like the show, please rate, recommend, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, that's the call to action. Make sure to include one on your show also. You can get more valuable advice at turnkeypodcast.com.